Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Jacinta Agochukwu. This week, President Tinubu addresses United Nations General Assembly, advocates sanctions against extremism and proliferation. Also this week, Kano tribunal sacks Governor Yusuf, declares APC winner. Later on the show, fans hold candlelight procession for Mohbad as police conduct autopsy on his corpse. All the details in a moment. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Earlier in the week, President Bola Tinubu addressed world leaders at the 78th United Nations General Assembly in New York City. He made the declaration that the time is now for UN member states to show with their actions that they mean what they say concerning the crackdown on terror financing, economic sabotage, and illicit mineral arms smuggling in the developing world. President Tinubu further noted that his aggressive economic development diplomatic push for new investment has been effective in presenting Nigeria as business ready. I have joining me to discuss this Adams Abono, a political analyst. He's joining me from Abuja. And also Yinka is to join me, Folarin, National Secretary Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. He's to join me as well via Zoom. Let me start with you. Good evening, Mr. Adams.
Jacinta, good evening, viewers.
All right, let's start up already. The president wants global leaders to mount crackdown on terror financing and arms smuggling. Let's have your take on how feasible this is.
Yeah, overall, President Tinubu's participation at the recently concluded United Nations General Assembly was a period, a moment where Africans can now say, yes, we have a rallying point. The president made points for Africa, and then particularly the issue of terrorist financing, arms proliferation that were captured in his very captivating speech are phenomenal. They are timely because, you know, Africa has been a hotbed of terrorism, from Al-Qaeda's incursion to the infiltration of Al-Qaeda into the Boko Haram, the Sahel, Savannah, and the northern part of Nigeria, you know, to certain pockets of terrorist activities elsewhere in Africa. If the issue of, terrorist financing is not addressed, it would have a very negative impact in whatever development aspirations that Africa as a continent aspires towards, and then globally, because what affects Africa affects the entire world. So the president, the Nigerian president, Bola Tinubu, he captured, the view of majority of people of the world. He captured global attention when he mentioned that a stringent measures should be taken against terrorist financing. If the financing of terrorist activities are limited to the barest minimum, then you could be very sure that terrorism wouldn't flourish in Africa and elsewhere around the world. So the president was apt when he said measures should be taken to reduce significantly terrorist financing in Africa and around the world. Thank you.
Right. Another thing the president spoke about is the economic diplomacy, where he said Nigeria is now ready for business. I want to ask you, how impactful is this approach on our economy?
Yeah, the President, expectedly, he would market Nigeria at every given opportunity, which he did at the UNGA, at the United Nations General Assembly. The president was seen as the chief marketer of Nigeria, and he did so, and saying emphatically that Nigeria is ready for business is telling the entire world that the giant of Africa, the largest economy within the black race, is a ready market for different products, for different services. You know, since the assumption of office of this present administration, there have been calculated, you know, measures towards increasing the ease of doing business in Nigeria. We have seen the minister, the coordinating minister of the economy, Wale Edom, he has spoken at different fora why Nigeria is a ready market. And the president, the UN General Assembly is about the most important gathering of world leaders any time around the world. So it is about the best place to market Nigeria. And we could see, you know, we go around, we feel what people go through, and we can see that certain aspects of the economy are being liberalized to encourage the ease of doing business. We have seen where there are, conscious steps taken to, you know, forestall insecurity, and then, you know, the certain bottlenecks that makes doing business in Nigeria difficult. So the president is being about reducing some of these things that hamper the ease of doing business. So it is, time enough to tell the world that Nigeria is a ready market. Nigeria is an available market. We have a robust population. You know, with the technology, the shift towards technology is extensive. So it is clear, and I agree with President Tinubu and majority of Nigerians too, and even watchers of, interested parties around the world would agree that it is time enough to come to Nigeria to do business, you know, because whatever it was that has hampered doing business in Nigeria is being tackled. Thank you.
Right, and yes, let's also talk about the several interesting outing at international event that the president has made from ECOWAS, AU, G20, and now the UN. How would you rate all of this outing so far?
Well, on a scale of 6 to 10, I would begin with the recent participation at the United Nations General Assembly. On a scale of 6 to 10, I would give President Tinubu, 8 over 10. He is not there all through, but he has done significantly. He has surpassed, people's expectation, you know, because the president took a stand for Africa. You know, since the days of Kwame Nkrumah, Azikiwe, we haven't seen where a leader of an African nation is advocating for the entirety of Africa. You know, President Olusegun Obasanjo did that too, to a reasonable extent, but it is encouraging to see President Tinubu standing for the entire continent. You know, he made a case for Africa at the UNGA. And then coming to Addis Ababa, the African Union conference, the president did phenomenally. At ECOWAS, where he is the chairman, we have seen him take the lead of the sub-region, you know, the sub-regional interest of encouraging democracy, of putting steps towards the flourishing of democracy around the sub-region. He has taken the lead in that direction, and he is doing very well. He is meeting with, even surpassing expectations. I have recently interacted with, a sister from another ECOWAS region, country, And we have reasons to be proud that our president about this time is the chairman of that regional organization. And he's not just chairman, he's defining leadership. You know, I would give him above pass in being chairman so far, and we have just seen it started. He is going to be chairman for a year and more. So we are going to expect that more are going to follow. I mean, in the direction of encouraging democracy, of putting steps towards ensuring that the institutions of democracy within the ECOWAS region and the entirety of Africa is sustained. So President Tinubu is giving quality leadership, and we would encourage Nigerians and the rest of Africans, to give him the needed support. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Adams, thank you so much for your contributions. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, it's Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. Now, in a surprising turn of events, the Kano State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal sacked Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf and declared the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Nasiru Gawuna, winner of the March 18 governorship poll. The three-man panel have ordered the withdrawal of certificate of return, which INEC presented to Yusuf, and directed a certificate of return to be issued to Gawuna. The court deducted 165,663 votes from Yusuf as invalid, stating that the ballot papers were not stamped or signed and therefore declared invalid. I still have Adams with me to talk about this. Mr. Adams, I want to have your take on this. One of the questions most people are asking is if the tribunal said INEC shouldn't have declared Governor Yusuf winner of the election, what does this say about the election and as well INEC?
Well, we have, apart from the Kano case, we have seen in certain other places in Nigeria recently where INEC's decision to declare a particular candidate has been challenged, and then subsequently the challenge has been affirmed by the courts. Coming to Kano, the governor in Kano, Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano, his election was nullified, I would say, by the governorship election petition tribunal, led by Justice Osadebe. That particular judgment is sort of an assessment of INEC's participation, INEC's conduct. The Independent National Electoral Commission has that responsibility to conduct elections that seems to be free, elections that seems to be fair, and a process that would be adjudged as balanced. But in Kano, where we have seen that votes were cancelled, and it wasn't just a few dozen votes. These are votes of over 100,000, in an election where the margin of defeat was not, significant enough. We would say that INEC, according to the court, didn't meet people's expectation in that particular election in Kano. Because a conduct where ballot papers were not stamped, but they were counted as valid votes, shows the unpreparedness and the unfairness on the part of the umpire, INEC. So Governor Yusuf of Kano, I have people from Kano. I'm an interested party in the development of Kano. What happens to Kano happens to the rest of northern Nigeria and by extension Nigeria. So we would see that despite his actions, which I wouldn't delve into. But we have seen that the people of Kano, massively voted for the APC candidate, governor, in that particular election, and the affirmation by the court, nullifying certain votes, shows that the judiciary took a stand for the people of Kano. Because I am a journalist, I take public perceptions, public opinion over a wide spectrum. And what the indications in Kano are that Governor Abba Yusuf might not be as popular as many people have thought him to be. And then again, that his declaration by INEC as the candidate of the New Nigerian People's Party, NNPP, was faulted. Because it has been seen that majority of the people in Kano massively came out to vote against the NNPP. But they had they were shortchanged by INEC. So the election tribunal, in affirming that Governor Yusuf didn't win that election, is about affirming the popular expectations of the people of Kano. And we want to see what would happen at the Court of Appeal. Governor Yusuf has his right to appeal, yes. But the appeal court, I wouldn't want to be prejudicial, but I would say that the appeal court would have the confidence of the people of Kano and the entirety of Nigerians, and we would see the likelihood of where that judgment would go. But as it stands, after the verdict of the tribunal, there were jubilations in Kano. Those jubilations go to tell of the character of the person of the APC candidate, His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Gowona, and we would see that the tribunal did a thorough job. I have read facets of that judgment. And, the judgment was taken, facet by facet, facet by facet, and it was seen as a fair judgment, So
Speaking of the judgment, Mr. Adams, I'm sorry to cut you short, but speaking of this judgment, there is also this argument about the three-man panel that delivered the judgment virtually. How do you react to that, and what do you think? Why do you think that happened?
Well, we already know how heated the political atmosphere in Kano was prior to that judgment. So, it speaks to common sense to be able to forestall breakdown of law and order. So it is the prerogative of the court, the tribunal, to give judgment, whether virtually or real time, But as far as I am concerned, and a lot of people I have interacted with, there's no problem with the manner of how the tribunal gave its verdict, But from security indications, it has to be visual so that there would not be a case of sporadic violence, breaking out after such judgments. We have seen where a particular official of the Kano government came out and sort of put up a strong statement, warning judges of the tribunal to be careful how they were going to go about delivering judgment. So that was indicative of what could happen, if the judgment was going to be given at a place where everybody knows. We have seen where hoodlums broke into prisons to set prisoners free. We have seen where hoodlums break into law courts. So it was novel. It was a novel manner of giving judgment, yeah. But it was within the ambit of our laws, because I am not sure that, I'm not a lawyer, but I am versed with legal procedures. So, but I can tell that it is within the ambit of our constitution.
All right,
for
Adam. Okay. You know, another question people are asking is why the court keep determining our election, but we don't know. We keep looking out for better options. But let's move to our final story for tonight. Now, in honor of the late Mohbad, the late artist Mohbad, procession have been taking place in Lagos, Abuja, Oyo, Ekiti, and other parts of Nigeria. Mohbad's death is believed to be controversial and has generated outrage and a massive outcry considering the circumstances surrounding his dismissal on September 12, 2023. His fans, friends, colleagues, and influencers, well-meaning Nigerians and sympathizers have called for a proper investigation to ascertain the cause of his death. The body of the late singer has now been exhumed for the purpose of an autopsy. He had earlier been buried the day after his death. I still have Adams to talk about this. Mr. Adams, it's been a series of reactions since September 12th, Mohbad died. How do you react to how the events of these few days had gone, especially the exhumation of his body and the fans' candlelight procession?
Well, I would personally observe a moment's silence for Mohbad. I would say may his soul rest in peace. You know, the issues around the death of the young musical talent are so unfortunate, you know, because Mohbad's death has thrown into the open how, you know, promising talents, what the harrowing experience they go through on the road to success, you know. The issue of his death are being investigated by appropriate authorities. The Nigerian police is leading in this regard. And it is very encouraging to see that public outcry is ensuring that proper things are to be done. The Nigerian police has exhumed his body. An autopsy has been taken. We haven't been able to know the results of the autopsy yet, but I understand that results of autopsies take some bit of time, you know. But then we have seen an outpouring of love for the deceased artist across Nigeria and elsewhere in the world, in New York City, in Cairo. A friend called me from Cairo. Tonight there will be a candlelight procession for Mohbad in Egypt. You know, so we have seen that this particular artist, you know, his songs, his artistry spoke to people's condition. This was a boy a young man who rose from considerable obscurity to the limelight of, you know, stardom. But his life was cut short. He died at 27. Nigerians have, the candlelight processions in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt City, every other places.
Out of time, but I don't want to end the show without asking you this very important question concerning the several allegations flying all over the social media. While we understand that people are angry and they want justice for Mohbad, what would you advise in calming things down and allowing the authorities do their job? Just briefly, we are almost out of time.
In ensuring justice for Mohbad, which I am an advocate of, I advocate that justice must be done. You know, I would thank artists, you know, like Bella Shmurda, Davido, and the couple of people who are making sure that proper justice must be done in this case. They have been accusing fingers on, you know, his music label led by the controversial Naira Marley and a couple of other people around him. the circumstances surrounding his death are so shady. You know, there have been indications that this particular artist was bullied, this particular artist has been shortchanged, which led to health conditions for him. You know, so the Nigerian police, it is expected that authorities, the law enforcement authorities, led by the Nigerian police, will do a thorough job in unmasking.
Adam, I'm sorry, we are out of time. You know, as Nigerians are open for the truth to prevail through this autopsy, I pray the dead have rest of peace, or peace while he's dead, and the people mourning get to have reason to keep trusting that the truth comes out from this whole thing. Anyway, I just want to say thank you. I've been speaking with Adams Abono, a political analyst. Thank you very much for your conversation so far. Thank you.
Yeah, you have a good evening too.